Okay, so here's a little quick and dirty on the 3D tracker. It's not really 3D tracker considered that per se in Nuke. It's more considered a camera track. So basically, if I bring it in a sequence, I'll come here, click in there, hit R, the R key on my keyboard, and I have a sequence from the Foundry. I'll bring this in here, okay, and I'll connect my viewer to it. So I'll hit 1 on my keyboard. And this is all prelim stuff that we've been doing, so I can kind of move a little bit quickly on some of the key points that we've done already multiple times. And right now we're just dealing with the sequence. So basically, this is not like a MOV or anything like that at the moment. It's just a sequence of images that were brought in, okay? So there is that. You're going to see that it has its own information here. The proxy format for this one is 1024 by 778, so that's the base format for the size of this thing. So some of the things that we might bring inside, we may have to reformat. Okay, so if we want them to match in size, we do need to use what's called a free reformat node, just to let you guys know. Okay, I like to drop that reminder because people will forget, and then you'll see that Nuke will try to update like either a smaller version of this one, or if the stuff that you bring in is larger, it's going to be coming out here with a bit of a dotted line, or it will update the viewer itself. Okay, so I'll hit F to frame the viewer, and I'm going to deal with the 3D node. So right under here is going to be all the 3D stuff that we need. So we have axis, geometry, all that good stuff. We're not creating a camera. That's going to be created for us after we do our track. We are doing a simple camera tracker. So I'll click on that. And here's the camera tracker. It's going to be the everything node for us in this case to begin with the tracking, which is really good. So it'll minimize some of the confusion that you guys may have. Now we are going to use a few of the different tabs up here where my cursor is. So the different tabs up here. Okay. To begin with, we have the basic tracker, and we are dealing with a sequence. Okay, so stills or sequence. We're dealing with the sequence right now. We're not doing any masking. We aren't doing any inputs. The camera already has that kind of coming in from the source right here, the read one material going into the source node. And right now, the camera is set to free camera. We could drop that down and do like linear motion. That would work for a shot like this. Always test your shot first. So if I hit play, you see this one's just kind of like moving forward. It's not going side to side. It's not very like wibbly wobbly. Okay. So there's that whole aspect to it. So I'll just hit stop, jump back to the beginning. And I know that free camera is more like if you're walking around. I don't want to say like Blair Witch style because that would just be horrible to track anyway. Although it can be done for movies like Cloverfield and such. The free camera though is just that, running around, and it can rotate, it can go forward and backwards, it can, you know, move up and down, fall to the ground. It could do a lot of different things. So this one is really more linear motion, going kind of straight forward from the Z depth right here. Okay. So I'm just going to put that to linear motion in this case. Worst case scenario, you could do free camera, all right? And a lot of the times it's going to give you something pretty good, okay? So linear motion, planar motion, that's okay too, but that's usually going to be, you know, a little more on a flat degree. If we're moving in the x-axis, again, linear or planar might be one of the ones that work for us. I like to try different things sometimes because we'll get different tracks. So I'll try this one to see what it gives me. And I don't know of any lens distortion here. The poles look like it might be bent a little bit here. I'm not too worried about that. It's, I mean, it's straight enough for us to be working with just fine. This part looks a little bit strange, but again, let's just focus on the tracking for now. So lens distortion, I could just do unknown lens, and then we'll just let it kind of try to figure things out on its own for us. Focal length, unknown constant. That means it's not going to be changing, which this one doesn't. It just kind of, the camera's moving forward. Okay, so I'm okay with unknown constant. And then down here, the film backing is set to custom. If you know your film backing, again, you can drop that down and use it. But I'm just going to kind of go with these settings. The first thing that I'm going to do is that once I'm happy with this stuff, I'm going to hit track, this track button under the analysis section. It'll track forward and it'll track backwards. You see that I have a few markers in here, and I have up to about 150 markers by default. So if I come here to the camera tracker one settings, I have the different tabs: use tracker, auto tracks, settings. The number of features, I can up this to give myself more markers inside of my work area. So if I said like 300 or more, then I would be able to have more markers. I can click preview on here to see how many more are going to be added, and that gives me a pretty good idea. Okay. Now I may want those, I may not. I could try 200, see what that does for me, see if that gives me any of the archways here. Let me click the preview on. Yeah, I get one archway there, one archway there. And really that's, going to be up to you guys. You can play with this number a little bit to see what else it gives you. And I'll just stick with 225 just because, it's pretty simple. It's not too bad. I'll turn off the preview feature and I'll go ahead and go to track this again. So I'll just go ahead and track it. Let it track all those other markers. And you'll see that the markers are going to change colors as it's tracking forward and backwards. And we're also going to kind of deal with some of those markers. Okay. So those are my settings, and that's going to be for the tracking and stuff. You're going to see that I do have the camera motion. There's a linear that I changed earlier. Okay. And we'll deal with these tracking features here in a minute. So tracking like the minimum length, at least 3 frames basically per track, the thresholds, smoothness, and all that good stuff. Things that we can mess with. So we'll go back to the tracker here. I'm going to click on solve. And once I click on solve, it should solve the tracks. And you're going to see that some of them in here, I hold down Alt, middle mouse button to zoom in here, Alt left mouse button to move around. The red ones and the kind of like orangish ones or auburn, whatever you want to consider those, are going to be usually omitted. So we can get them out of our track right away to see what we're going to be working with. And one of the ways to do that is to come to the settings. Oh, sorry, to the auto tracks. Okay. So the auto tracks here, you're going to see that we have 3 awesome buttons down here to delete unsolved, delete rejected, and those would be considered rejected. Delete auto tracks if we had to delete the auto tracks in here. So to view these, I can see a few of them under my track or camera tracker. The thing that I pay attention to the most is going to be this error. So I have an error of 0.89, and that could be kind of high. The closer I get to 0, the better. Now you're going to have to make peace with a lot of this. Sometimes you're going to end up in the 70s, 50s, 60s, something like that. Maybe 0.89 is one of the best that we can get at the moment without putting single trackers ourselves in there, and that's okay. So let's see if we could take a look at some of these just real quick. I'll go to the auto tracks, and if I look over here, I have like the track length minimum, and that's going to be this one right here. I come over here, hit F, and it's not really showing me. Oops, I didn't really want to do that. So I'll put 3 there. I need to be up here. I'll hit F to frame it. You're going to see that there's the minimum right down here. And I'll hold down Control and click on the minimum length, and it shows you that it's set to 3. So here's 4 right here, so 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on and so forth. So a lot of them are a track length of 8 or so, okay, or around 7. So there's a few. So this is kind of like an average of all the tracks that we have in here, all 225, or up to 225. So I can see that. I could change the length of this. 3 is fine. I'm okay with 3. So I'll come over here down to some of the other parts. The track length average, track length max. Let's not worry about those right now. But we do have the solve errors. So the error minimum, solve error, I can hit F to frame it. Okay. There's the RMS and the solve error. Okay. And so on and so forth. So those are going to be part of the solves. But let's focus on the other ones that we have down here that we can actually change. So like the max track error is set to 4.03. You'll see that the error track, and I'll hold down Control and click on the max track error. Come over here, hit F to frame it. Okay. So max track error and max track. Okay, error right there. Let me just click on the error track and I'll hit F to frame it. And it looks like this is just pretty steady. So there's the max track. I'll hit F for that. and I'll click on the max track error. And now I'm looking at these two different ones here, and I could change that. So the max track error is right now at 4. I could change that to something lower, something higher, like maybe 3.75. And you'll see that some of these markers will change. Like, I don't know if this one changed just then, but this one changed to a red marker, okay? And I would look at some of these, and we'll dump some of these and so on and so forth when we don't need them, okay? Now we could put this to straight 4 and see what we end up with. Since it was closest to 4, um, it's not a huge deal for how much these are kind of going over, okay? So error max, max track error, error track, RMS, F, I'll hit F to frame it, RMS error, RS min, and I'll hit F to frame that. Here's a max error and the max error over here, so I can view the two. I'll hit F to frame those, and I have a peak right here which I can bring down for the max error. And I might bring that below maybe 6 or a little around 6 so I can cut these two out. So maybe like 6.25. Okay, and that'll cut out some of the errors there. And what I can do is I can click on the button here that says delete unsolved, and it asks me if I want to permanently delete them, and yes, I'll hit yes, it's not a big deal. I also click on the delete rejected and get rid of those. You're going to see that now my scene is a lot more clean. There's some red markers that have gone away, and there's some of the auburn or orangish yellows, whatever that have gone away. Okay, so I can be happy with that at the moment. I'll go back to track or the camera tracker, and my error has gone down to the 70, so like 0.76. That's pretty good, and I still have enough markers in here that I can actually do some work with. Okay, so I'll go ahead and update the solve, or I could click to solve with those settings. Okay, and I probably should hit update to solve because you see I get some of those other ones back here. But I can just go to auto track and get rid of some of these like orange ones, and I shouldn't have any red ones, but I'll put delete rejected, hit yes, and delete unsolved and hit yes. Okay, so those are the ones that were not going to be solved anyway. They were just kind of cluttering up our scene, which they would appear in the 3D view as well. So now I could check out my 3D view. I'll come over here, hit the tab key, but I have to be over my work area. So my viewer right here, okay? I'll hit the tab key, and you guys are going to see that now I have a 3D scene. So I hold down the Alt button, right mouse button to dolly in, dolly out, because I set my working mode to Maya, my navigation mode. Alt left mouse button to tumble the camera. Alt middle mouse button to track up, down, left, right. Alt right mouse button to dolly in, dolly out. Okay. And I can come up here to the top and I would go to edit, down to preferences if you want to change this to Maya settings. Otherwise, they might be a little bit different. They'll still get you around. Okay. I'll go to viewer handles. And the 3D control types I set to Maya. So you can do Houdini, Lightwave, Moto, or Nuke. Okay. By default, it'll be to Nuke. And it's just going to be the buttons are a little bit switched. I'm used to Maya, so I leave it to Maya, hit OK, and I can navigate like that. Okay. So what I want to do is I can kind of work with my 3D view real quick. And with that 3D view, I actually need to resolve my camera. So I'm going to go to Camera Tracker, and with it resolved, I did get some error back. That's kind of strange. But I'm going to make peace with that at the moment because we can tweak settings all day. I'm going to go down to the export to be happy with this, and I'll click on camera in this drop down menu for the export, and I'm going to export a scene, okay? So the scene is going to include a camera when I hit create. So here's scene, not scene plus, just scene, and hit create. It's going to create a camera for me right here, okay? And that's going to be a camera that would go over into Maya in this case for us, or 3ds Max or Cinema 4D, whatever. I get this point cloud data, which is what you're viewing here, okay? And I have a scene node, which incorporates everything above it, okay? So I'll click the scene node, I'll hit 1 to put my viewer to it. And what happens is this. If I come over here to my viewer again, hit the tab key, I can't see what's going on here. And this is because I need to add a scanline render. Okay, so right now this is kind of like a 3D scene for the most part, and it doesn't really know how to interpret it back into 2D based off of just the nodes that we have here. So because Nuke has a node for pretty much everything, I need to click on the scene 1 view, and I'll come over here to my 3D view, or 3D tools, sorry. I'm going to go down to scanline render. Okay, scanline render will take the 3D information with the background over here, and I need to plug those nodes in. And to show you that, I'll come over here, hit the space bar, and I'll hit F to frame everything. It's kind of dolly in there. To show you this, the space bar again is like Maya. It will pop you into a certain window or view that you're working with. Okay, so I'll just kind of bring this up through here. And I have the scanline render. I could tell the scanline render is connected to the scene via the obj/csn. And the camera, I can connect to my 3D camera right here. And my background, I could connect to my background up here, the original source. Okay. I can take this and I'll move these over a bit. So I'll just kind of drag my key around these. Oops. Let's do it again. I'll drag them this way. And I'm just going to do this so that my scene looks a little more clean. Okay. There we go. And there's my viewer there. So you guys can see everything plugged into whatever needs to be plugged into. And now, because the scanline render is taking my 3D scene and putting it to a 2D view for me, it's processing that data so I can now see what's going on here between the two different views, whether I hit tab or tab back, okay? Another thing that we can do in here is that I'll come up here to this little, next to the viewer, there's this little icon that I'll click, and I'll go down to split horizontal, and that's going to make another window for me. And what I can do with that window is I can make a new viewer for it. So down here in my node graph, I'll click off to deselect everything. I'll hit the tab key and I'm going to type in viewer. So I already have that in there because I tried this out earlier. I'll hit enter and I get a new viewer. And the new viewer can go straight to the scanline render as well. Okay. The reason for that is that I'm going to use one to see the scanline render and one to show the 3D scene. Okay, so here I can see this. I'll hit F to frame my left viewer, which is viewer 2. And what I'll do is I'll just drag this viewer over because I'll put viewer 2 on the side here. You're going to see that Nuke gives me options. I don't ever want to do that because it's going to split that split version already. I want to put it up here to where the dotted line is all around the next pane, okay, and release it. And now I have that going on. I'll come over here to viewer 1, I'll hit F, and over here in viewer 2, I can work in my 3D mode. So I will hit the tab key. And really the tab key is only doing this. I have this option here. I can drop this down. I'm either in the 2D node, 3D node, or orthographic views like the right side, top, bottom, front, back, and so on and so forth. So the right side is actually a good place to be. So I'll just kind of come in here. All right. And I may have some depth issues here, so that's really, really far away from all these others. But I'll just kind of deal with it. It's not a problem. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my camera and kind of get everything a little bit more level. So hopefully these things right here at the bottom are where the floor is. So I will go to my camera tracker and double click that. Come over here to my scene tab. And my scene tab is going to take everything inside of it. That's why I would use the scene tab. That's this guy right here. Okay. And I'm going to go my translates and rotates. Okay. So first off, I'll rotate this to kind of get the ground a little more flat. I can do that by coming over here into my input box for X or any of these, hold down my middle mouse button and drag to the right or left. If I need that to move faster, because you see that my numbers are changing, maybe that's too slow for me, I can add the shift key modifier and that'll go a little bit larger increments for me. So I could do something kind of like that. And that's a little more friendly because our camera is kind of tilted upward. If you see, they're almost kind of paying attention to the roof or the ceiling of this. And that's actually looking pretty decent. I might be okay with that. One of the things I could do is that since the ground isn't really what's tracked for the most part, I could take this node and I do have one point down here that looks like it might be on the ground. But I could drop this down a little bit if I need to. So I'll go to the translate Ys here And for translate Y, hold down my middle mouse button and drag it up or down, and either get those closer to the ground, those nodes, or just kind of where they're close enough, like that, okay? Because when we send this to Maya, these markers are going to be inside of Maya, and we can say, well, that's the floor. If it was a floor, if it was a tabletop, then maybe we can consider that tabletop the floor, and so on and so forth, okay? There's a bunch of different methods you can use and different tricks. So long as you align everything, then you're going to have a lot better time with this. I'll go to the top view now, so I'll drop this down, go to top. I just want to make sure that this is kind of dead on. And this one's pretty good. This one's pretty straight. So my scene is aligned. If the camera was off, so if it was offset like this, let's say that when it tracked it, the data was like that, then you might want to rotate it yourself to try to line it up in the Z depth, okay? I'll put this back to 0 because it was lined up pretty well. And the reason being is that whatever 3D program you bring it into, the Z depth or the front camera slash front of your scene is going to be generally where you guys would model from and all that good stuff. Close this thing. Okay. So yeah, there's a lot of good ways of working that way, and it just makes it a little bit better for you. Okay. So I will pop out of here and go into my 3D view again. Or I could just simply hit the tab key and hit it again. Tab key. And there we go. Okay. And now you see that my scene is changed a little bit. It's been rotated and set on the grid. Okay. And each 3D application would take that. So what I can do to test this, like we did in class, is I'll come over here to my 3D tools here and I'll go to geometry and I'll go to cube. And I'll click on a cube and I'll make a cube there. And the cube is right here, so it's been created, but it wasn't attached to anything. I didn't have anything selected either, so I didn't need it attached just yet. I'm going to attach it to the scene node here in a minute. So I'm just going to kind of place it, scale it, all that good stuff. I'll scale it in here in the uniform scale. Because Nuke has full 3D in here, but it's not as friendly as other programs, like Maya and stuff. It does work really well. It's kind of finicky to pick some of these. Okay, so I'll just kind of do this, move it up, kind of place it. I can use my same orthographic views or whatever I need, okay? And I'm going to put a material on here, so I'll come over here, click in my GAD view, which is just the node graph, and I'm going to come up to the top. Oh, click off basically to not select anything, or deselect if you will. Go to the top here where it says image and go down to checkerboard. Add the checkerboard image, and I'm just going to plug that into the image of the cube. And now you see that we have a checkerboard texture, okay? The cube, I will take this little arrow and drag it into the scene node. I'll just move the camera up so we don't have more crisscrossy patterns. We could even take this if we want to organize it better, like that, and move these both to the side. Okay, so you can see exactly what's happening in your scene. Yeah, so there we go. Now you're seeing it in the scene here, and I would still scale it and place it however I need. So I could double click the cube, and then I get the settings up here, scale it down a little bit more, you know, place it somewhere in my 3D scene. So I can use my orthographic views, or I'll just guess here, guesstimate it. Oops. Hit F to frame it. I jumped to the front view, so I'm not too familiar with those hotkeys yet, so I'll just kind of jump to here, kind of set that down. And again, Nuke has all these little areas you can click to scale this thing a bit differently. I'm pretty sure we could change those and modify them, but I just like to zoom in real quick to be quick, so I get more familiar with these parts. And I'll place it in, hopefully in our scene, it would line up. So since it's a part of the scene, wherever I move it to, like if I bring it over this way, kind of more next to that pillar, and I can see in here if it's even really remotely close to that, based off of these points, okay? So I'll just kind of kind of obnoxious there. So I'll just kind of drag that over and I'll base it off the points. So this thing's really kind of blocking the pillar right there. So those points might be the pillar. And again, I could do that, and I could always put these in to recreate that geometry, and that's what you would do inside of Maya, and so on and so forth. But let's kind of see if it what our track does with this guy right here. I'll hit play, and the green line below is matching, and it looks as though it's moving pretty decently. Okay. Now again, this is just a few frames. You guys will have a much longer scene, but the desired result is that it moves along without sliding and all that good stuff when it comes to your scene. Okay. Because this data is going to go into Maya. You're going to render it out, and then that rendered footage should match up just like this little cube is right here, based off that point data. Okay, so I'll pop out of here. I'll stop the playback. That's looking pretty decent, and I'm happy with that. So let's say that we were done doing this, and just to show you how to clean up our scene, I could just come up here to the little icon here, drop it down, and I could tell it to close the pane, and it closed that pane, and I don't have to worry about the viewer 2. I'm just focused on the viewer 1 now again. Hit F to frame it, all that good stuff. And now I can export it. Okay, so for exporting, we use a different node. I'll just kind of come in here based off of what we have already. Okay, get that to fit a little bit better. And I'll come over here to the side where the 3D tools are, drop this down, go to geometry, and I do want to export this kind of like geometry for the most part. It's going to just do the depth field and all that good stuff. So I'll go to the right geo node, and that's the one that's going to set out the point cloud data, the camera, everything inside of our scene. The camera tracker point cloud, and even the object, the checkerboard cube, will go into Maya. So I'll just kind of, let me select my scene first before I do that. Then I'll come back up to 3D, tool set, geometry, down to right geo node, and it tells me that it's not available in the non-commercial Nuke X version, so I can't really show you it. But when it does come up, what happens is that you get this kind of like if we were writing out something else. So let's say that I just select this guy and I'm just going to give you a hypothetical lesson for this part. And this is going to be dropping it down to here, going into the right node. Okay. And in the right node, you're going to have a right geo node. But for the file, you just tell it where to be like you normally would. So if I told it to go here, wherever here is, I hit yes, and at the end I just gotta give it a name. So basically, to Maya, FBX, you know, and it's gonna be a dot FBX. So dot FBX, and in Nuke we have to put dot FBX, and I would hit save, and it would know that it's a dot FBX. And here it's not recognizing it because it's like as though I'm trying to render out a image sequence or image file or something like that. So you would do that and it would give you your data for there. At the very bottom, you would have an option to say Maya ASCII. Click that to turn it on. It doesn't say Maya ASCII, it just says ASCII, okay? ASCII. Click that to turn it on and then export it. And then that's where you're able to do the import and all that good stuff for the Maya view, okay? So I'm working on getting a license for Nuke. So it's going to be probably like, I believe it's $250 for me and for you guys. So it would be the same for either one of us. So I'm probably going to get one of those. That way I can kind of update a tutorial and make some of these a little bit better and have all of this come out the way that we would like them to, okay? But for this part, I'll just select this and hit delete. Now, one thing that I can do and try inside of the school computers is I could save this. So if I go File, down to Save, Comp As, it will allow me to save it, okay? So if I did like a test O2, I could do test O3 or something like that. I don't know, whatever. And hit save. It does allow me to save it, so I could try to see if I can open it in the school. I've had students that have had success with this and some that haven't. So let me know what happens with yours. Otherwise, you're just gonna have to redo this inside the school on one of the school computers, okay? So that should be it for tracking the 3D a 3D track. based off of a camera track, okay? This guy right here. And some of the other ones I'll try to maybe tomorrow as we have class make a tutorial for you guys to kind of mess with the Maya stuff and whatnot. But I will have that discussion with you guys tomorrow and kind of see what is needed from me for you guys, okay? So try this out, do it a few times so that you get used to it, and hope this really helps you guys out, okay? See you in the next one. Take care.